A billboard is turning heads and stirring up controversy on an Alabama interstate. Plus, a school district is asking students to bring in canned food, but it's not for what you might think. Nate?
Thanks a lot, Natasha. With all the cloud cover and low-level moisture that we had early this morning and some of that fog, temperatures did not get below 50 degrees early this morning. Very mild to start. We saw temperatures pretty close to average for this time of year this afternoon, but some changes ahead for us. We'll talk about those and some rain chances, too, in the forecast in just a few minutes.
From your hometown news leader, this is WTVY News 4 at 5.
What's next in the investigation into alleged dogfighting in Houston County? Good afternoon. I'm Natasha Chugtai.
I'm Reginald Jones. Thank you for joining us for News 4 at 5. The man at the center of the dogfighting investigation in Houston County is out of jail on bond today. In the meantime, dozens of dogs rescued from his property in Cottonwood are receiving medical care. News 4's Courtney Crown has been following up on this case. She joins us live from our newsroom. And Courtney, I understand this man was arrested on other charges, but still has not been charged in connection with the dogfighting case.
That's true, Reg. So far, Hughes is only charged on drug charges. That's because Colonel Jim Smith with Cottonwood Department of Public Safety says their main priority yesterday was taking care of those neglected dogs. Yesterday, the Humane Society took the dogs to a temporary shelter to get care. Colonel Smith says a detailed investigation will take place before they can charge Jerome Hughes with dogfighting. Smith says they'll look at vet papers to determine how many are in critical condition. Colonel Smith emphasizes today that the dogfighting investigation is just beginning, and it could be months before they build a solid case. Smith says how they found out about the allegations of dogfighting is unusual.
Trying to get him to care for the animals, and he told us that that's what he was raising them for, to fight hogs, and that gambling was involved, and that that's basically the way he made part of his living.
Police say looking into the firearms will be a completely separate investigation. Now, just as a note, Colonel Smith said the last time they went on that property in Cottonwood was because of the impending cold weather. Reg?
All right, Courtney, thanks a lot for that update. Smith went on to say it took around 2 weeks for the Humane Society of the United States, the District Attorney's Office, and Houston County Sheriff's Office to carry out the investigation leading to yesterday's seizure and arrest.
Can the state of Alabama take the Porch Band of Creek Indians to court over its gambling operations? A 3-judge panel heard arguments on that today. Attorney General Luther Strange says the tribe is operating illegal slot machines at its 3 casinos in the state. Strange says the machines are not allowed without a contract with the state. A lawyer for the tribe says Alabama does not have jurisdiction on Indian land. He says a federal commission decides if the machines are electronic bingo or slot machines. Former Alabama Governor Don Siegelman's latest appeal went before a 3-judge panel today. His lawyers argued their client's trial was tainted by politics and that Siegelman's sentence was too long for his crimes. They also asked the judges to let them get discovery about whether a U.S. attorney with Republican ties was improperly involved in the case despite being recused. A lawyer for the Department of Justice says Siegelman is making an old argument that was already rejected in co-defendant Richard Scrushy's appeal.
A controversial billboard along an Alabama interstate has heads turning and tempers flaring.
And it's not the first time a billboard of this nature has shown up along Alabama roadways. Sarah Killian reports.
Driving down Interstate 59 in Springville towards Birmingham, this billboard is hard to miss. It reads, "Diversity means chasing down the last white person. #WhiteGenocide." This controversial billboard is owned by Dyer Outdoors. They didn't want to release the identity of the person who purchased the billboard, but they say their phone has been ringing off the hook with people upset over the message.
Yes, I'm calling about your sign that you have up on the interstate right there at the Springville exit. Better get that sign down or there will be a class action suit brought against you.
This isn't the first time a billboard of this nature has been put up in the area. Last summer, a billboard with the message, "Anti-racist is code for anti-white," was put up in the Leeds area. The billboard was later connected to the group the League of the South. League of the South President Michael Hill.
One of our local members in Jefferson County put that up, and he did it sort of on his own.
Hill says he's not sure if this billboard in Springville was also purchased by the member of his group, but he says it's a message he understands.
I think it's a concern about the demographic future of white Southerners. So that's pretty much my broad take.
That was Sarah Killian reporting. The billboard's owner wants to refund the money so the billboard can be taken down.
Well, the sun decided not to make an appearance for us today in the Wiregrass.
It was a little gloomy out there. Let's go to Nate now for first check of your forecast, Nate.
Yeah, second day in a row with mostly cloudy skies. I think tomorrow and the next day will be very similar. We do have some changes to talk about in the 5-day that we'll discuss here in a few minutes. But let's talk about temperatures for today. Very cool once again for our afternoon highs, only in the upper 50s. That's pretty close to average for this time of year, but much different than yesterday, where some spots saw upper 60s and low 70s for afternoon highs. We started off very mild, like we told you, in the 50s. The big picture around the lower 48, high pressure to our north, kind of a weak trough down to our south and east, but not a whole lot of activity going on right now. We'll talk more about our changing pattern in the 5-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Natasha.
All right, thanks so much, Nate. President Obama's police task force had its first public meeting this morning. The group was created in December following protests sparked by grand jury decisions in 2 high-profile police-involved shootings. The task force is made up of law enforcement officials, educators, and civil rights activists. The goal is to strengthen relationships between local police and the communities they serve. The panel will work with the Justice Department to find ways to promote crime reduction while building public trust.
Every policy and practice that the police implement should be evaluated not only in terms of its impact on crime, but in terms of its perceived fairness in the community. Every encounter that people have with the police is a teachable moment, and police departments need to ask themselves, what are they teaching the public about the police?
The president has asked the task force to prepare a report by March 2nd on their recommendations.
In Alabama, school's letter to parents on school security has gone viral, and it has some parents really scratching their heads.
David Hurst explains why the school is asking for canned goods to stop a school shooter.
The Alice Emergency Plan is used by over 1,500 school districts across the country and is meant to be used in active shooter situations. Auburn University released this video showing the 5 aspects of the plan. Alice is an acronym for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. In the video, the counter strategy involves throwing textbooks at the intruder to stop the attack. For W.F. Burns Middle School, they've asked students to bring in canned goods for the same purpose.
Their safety and security is the number one thing that we are looking at here, and we are trying to give them options rather than making them sitting ducks.
The letter sent home to parents has been shared nationwide and has raised some concern about the school's plan for an emergency situation.
The negativity that we have seen has been put out there on Facebook.
Chambers County Superintendent Kelly Hodge says the part about canned goods is such a small part of the emergency plan, but she apologizes for sending the letter without educating parents beforehand.
This one very tiny piece got taken out of context of the whole big picture.
Hodge says the number one goal during an active shooter situation would be evacuation. Throwing cans or textbooks would be considered a last possible option.
What Alice promotes is that you have objects around the classroom that are available to you that you can readily throw and kids can run out of the room, but that is the very, very last resort and the very, very smallest part of this entire training.
That was David Hurst reporting. Dr. Hodge says she hopes the cans are not needed for an intruder, but it's best to be prepared.
Indeed, and many of you have been weighing in on that proposal on our Facebook page. Donnie says, are you serious? He recommended having armed guards at schools and parent volunteers to monitor.
Ginger said, how about teaching children the fastest way to get out of the building in a dangerous situation, or even just general quick thinking like telling them to pull the fire alarm?
Stephanie says they should take the cans to a food drive. She added she would never tell her child to throw a can at a gunman.
And Caston said while he thinks the principal's request is out of the ordinary, it could be a good thing because we live in an evil world. Now you can also join the conversation at WTVY.com or our Facebook page.
Whenever a child goes missing, their picture is shared hundreds of times on social media, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has taken notice. Today, the group announced a partnership with Facebook to send Amber Alerts directly to the social media site. The distribution system will send Amber Alerts to everyone in a designated area that's logged on. Now, those areas will be determined by law enforcement. The alerts will contain detailed information about the child, including a photo, description, and where the abduction happened.
Lawmakers in Alabama and Georgia got back to work today, what they hope to accomplish in their respective sessions coming up.
Also, the president sat down with congressional leaders today to talk about this session's agenda, find out what they agree on and the issues that divide them in just a moment. First, here's a look at your Alpha Skycam. Today, we're looking at a live picture from the Skycam there in Abbeville. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.
You're watching News 4 at 5 with Reginald Jones, Natasha Chugtai, and meteorologist Nate Harrington.
Congressional leaders sat down with President Obama today. One side promised legislation the president is threatening to veto, making for a pretty difficult dynamic. But it's the new reality as the Republican-controlled Congress gets to work. Craig Boswell reports from the White House.
Sitting between the Republican leaders of the House and Senate, President Obama said he can work with them, finding common ground on urgent issues, including cybersecurity.
We can work hard together, get some legislation done, and make sure that we are much more effective in protecting the American people from these kinds of cyber attacks.
The president is proposing a bill to protect consumer data, along with additional tools for law enforcement to go after hackers.
The recent events certainly underscore the need again to tackle cybersecurity.
But legislation already moving through the new Republican-controlled Congress is at odds with the White House agenda.
We're voting to block the president's overreach, his executive overreach, which I believe is beyond his constitutional duty and, frankly, violates the Constitution itself.
The House is vowing to reverse President Obama's action on immigration and also has bills rolling back Wall Street reforms and some health care law requirements.
This legislation that we're considering is a jobs bill.
The Senate is working on approving the Keystone XL pipeline, despite a veto threat.
It certainly raises questions in my mind about whether or not Republicans who have the majority in Congress and can determine which pieces of legislation advance their way through the process, about how serious they are about trying to work with the president.
The White House has promised vetoes on 5 different bills so far this year. Craig Boswell, CBS News, the White House.
Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid did not make the White House meeting because he's still recovering from an accident he had over the holidays. Alabama lawmakers are back at work today for their organizational session. Representative Mike Hubbard was re-elected Speaker of the House despite his indictment on ethics violations. Now, leaders also announced appointments to committees and discussed their operating rules for the next 4 years. The organizational session is expected to last through tomorrow. The regular legislative session starts on March 3rd.
Meantime, Georgia lawmakers got back to work today. At the top of their agenda, medical marijuana. Corey Lowe's daughter suffers from life-threatening seizures. Lowe is in the Capitol today lobbying for medical marijuana to be legalized in the state. A bill last year that seemed promising died on the final day of the session. This year, Representative Alan Peake is sponsoring a new bill that has Governor Nathan Deal's support. But parents still worry that medical marijuana can't be legally grown in Georgia, meaning parents would still have to get it outside of Georgia, which could violate federal law. Georgia Governor Nathan Deal was sworn in for a second term in office yesterday. During his inaugural address, Deal says his mission for the next term is to build on the foundation that has been laid. He also spoke about his administration's work on the state's criminal justice system.
If you pay your dues to society, if you take advantage of the opportunities to better yourself, if you discipline yourself so that you can regain your freedom and live by the rules of society, you will be given the chance to reclaim your life.
Governor Deal will deliver his State of the State tomorrow.
Well, the sun certainly was not visible today in the Wiregrass. Are we expecting the same for tomorrow? That will be 3 days if that's the case. Nate's going to let us know in his full forecast in just a moment.
Plus, regardless if you think you're going to need it, why experts say adults should be thinking about the possibility of long-term care in their futures. But first, here's a look at today's stocks.
And now, from the Forewarned Storm Center, meteorologist Nate Harrington.
Took a look at the big picture earlier, showed big high pressure off to our north. A little weak trough of low pressure around the Carolinas causing some showers. We've got lots of lower level moisture and cloud cover about 2,000 feet and below. Early morning, we saw lots of thick fog. That fog scoured out, but we held on to lots of the cloud cover for today. Even a few little light shower areas. Nothing too substantial, very light sprinkles for this afternoon. Temperatures, a different story than what we had yesterday. If you can remember back, we had 70s and 60s for high temperatures yesterday in the west. In the east, we had numbers in the 50s and low 60s. Well, we flip-flopped that for today. We had the warmer temperatures out east, the cooler temperatures out to the west. And if you compare this to 24 hours ago, you see the temperatures much cooler in the western portions of our viewing area, anywhere from 8 to 9 degrees cooler, and some portions of the viewing area 13 or 14 degrees cooler. And off to the east, either very close to what we had yesterday or just slightly warmer, about 2 degrees warmer in Abbeville, Blakely, and Donaldsonville. I think low temperatures for tomorrow will be a little bit higher than this. We're going to have lots of cloud cover once again. That low-level moisture will stay persistent for late tonight. So add 2 or 3 degrees to these low temperatures, and I think that's what you'll have when you wake up early tomorrow morning. Lots of clouds over the Gulf Coast states. That's not going to change too much. That low-level moisture is staying in place, but very weak forcing at the surface and in the mid-levels will lead to not a whole lot of rain chance, but we'll hang on to those very slight shower and sprinkle chances for the next 24 hours. Better rain chances, though, for late on Wednesday and on Thursday as another Gulf low gets going, but you see a very fairly tranquil pattern if you exclude the cloud cover. So watch the GFS model. This is the American model. Rainfall chances, they go up by Thursday as another Gulf low moves through. Rain chances are going to be pretty good. I think our light showers will be persistent through the day on Thursday, starting in the afternoon and lasting until, say, 8 or 9 o'clock on Thursday night. Then by Friday, things start to clear out. But what will not be very good are the rainfall totals through Thursday afternoon and into the evening time hours. So most of our heavier rain will be during that late Wednesday, early Thursday period with some more scattered showers for Thursday night. But by Friday, you total it up and it's meager at best. Probably a quarter of an inch might be the highest rain amounts we see in the Wiregrass, and some folks will miss out on the rain completely. So we'll call for about a 50 to 60% chance of rain by the time we get to Thursday afternoon. By Friday, we're talking clear skies, a lot of sunshine, and basically nil rain chances for the end of the week and start of the weekend. Temperatures will be very seasonable and a little bit on the chilly side to start off with numbers in the 30s, close to freezing on both Friday and Saturday, and moderating temperatures by Sunday. So more kind of gloomy weather. If you've got the opportunity to take a nap during the afternoon time, I would suggest that to kind of pass the time. It's just not going to be very bright at all until we get to Friday.
What about at 5:20? Would that work?
Oh, nap time right now?
It sure is. Reg, you're on your own.
Well, speaking of naps, longer naps could help babies' brains develop better. Well, details on that coming up.
And if you're trying to shed those holiday pounds, experts suggest turning to an ancient technique. Both those stories ahead in For Your Health.
The 5-day forecast brought to you by Gentiva Home Health and Hospice.
In today's For Your Health, a new study finds Americans are strongly underestimating the needs for future long-term care. 60% of adults between 40 and 65 don't think they'll need long-term care services, but evidence suggests nearly 70% of older adults will need it at some point. Those living with minor children were the least likely to think they'll need long-term care and support. Those living alone were most likely to think they'd likely need it. Many Americans are working to get in shape in 2015. Fitness apps and 24-hour gyms are making it easier than ever to start. But new research shows one ancient technique could be the best choice for physical activity. Ian Cull explains why.
You may not think yoga is the way to jumpstart your body into a healthy year full of shredding pounds, but a new study suggests yoga is a great way to get in shape.
It is a New Year's resolution, and I think it's all part of trying to find a better way of balancing my life.
Calming, relaxing, sure, but it's not all mental. The study, published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, found that compared to people who did not work out, people who practiced yoga showed significant improvement in heart rate, blood pressure, cholesterol, and BMI. As for weight loss, yoga worked just as well as cycling or brisk walking.
That's something that you can feel when you're doing the practice. So it's just nice to get that science behind it.
Instructors at Be the Change Yoga and Wellness have noticed great strides in students' strength and weight loss.
There's a lot of physicality and challenging physical exercise involved in yoga, especially these days.
Yoga made the list of top 10 fitness trends for 2015 in Shape magazine. Others include high-intensity interval training like CrossFit and personal training. Trainers in Los Gatos say whatever you do, get moving. Set small goals with realistic expectations.
We can get out and walk or hike or walk the dogs.
And whether it's yoga or another exercise, doing something can be a great way to start off the new year.
The CDC recommends 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity every week. New research finds daytime naps may help babies memorize and learn. 6 and 12-month-old babies were shown a repetitive procedure right before their regularly scheduled nap. Babies who took long naps were significantly better at repeating the procedure the next day than babies who slept less than 30 minutes. Researchers say more studies are needed, but suggest naps help babies process information they get throughout the day. Who's to say they want a nap?
You know why they need more studies on that, right?
Why?
Because they were napping.
Of course, right.
Nate's back with the final check on the forecast in just a moment.
And what better way to start the new year than with a few good laughs and naps? That's next.
Coming up on WRGX News at 5:30, a local school district is ranking pretty high on a state list. We'll show you which one and what it means for students there. And from the farm to the table, we visit a tunnel house where they've been growing food to serve at a local school cafeteria. I'm Kevin Presley. Join Catrice Nolan and me next for WRGX News at 5:30. Nate.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Let's take a look at temperatures for the next 12 hours. Numbers will be fairly uniform, only in the middle and low 50s. Early tomorrow morning, I think we drop into the upper 40s, but that's not very cool. That's basically 10 degrees above average for this time of year. Some slightly cooler air tomorrow, but still cloudy, gloomy, dreary.
Dreary.
All right. Well, finally, if laughter is the best medicine, India
Watch us.
will be the healthiest country of all. They're hosting a comedy group for 2 days at its first laughter festival.
Thousands of people turned out for the stand-up routines. 80 comedians performed and say they hope it becomes a trend that many other cities pick up.
We could do that.
We do that.
We could do that.
We do that 3 times a day, right?
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
But no one else is laughing because we're not that funny.
We think it's funny.
We think we're funny.
A couple of people in the back think it's funny, but that's about it.
But that's about it.
No.
So sorry.
That's our time. Thank you for putting up with us.
Yeah. See you back here at 6 for more laughs.